I am Grim Strife, and today I would like to share with you the first of what I hope to be many lore breakdown videos of the Weave and the worlds, peoples, and cultures that exist within it. If you find this interesting, then I hope you return for future installments. I may even expand into the lore of other projects as well. For now, though, I will be focusing on the worlds of the Weave. Thank you in advance for listening. If you have any feedback, I would be grateful. Now to begin, let's start with an excerpt. His gray brow scrunched up as he pulled the spectacles from his face with his right hand and placed the left on his forehead, rubbing at the wrinkles there as though he could erase the time on his aged face. After a moment, his hand fell to the bridge of his nose between his eyes, where he used his index finger and thumb to massage it, while letting out a small sigh.
My dear boy, you have studied under me for almost 2 years, and you haven't once asked me what the Weave is. In all that time, I imagine you understood that you were in fact a cut above my other apprentices. Perhaps I was wrong, and you are indeed a dullard, if instead of just comprehending, you waited 2 years to ask a question that should have been the very foundation of all your studies. I thought you saw through my teaching and lectures the truth of it, the matter I thought to be so plain. But now here you are asking, after almost 2 years. If I could not clearly explain what the Weave is after all that time, then I had hoped it would have dawned on you the grandeur of it. Its scope so vast and whole that it rises beyond mere explanation. Something that is able to give life, death, access to the arcana, travel between worlds, the very birthplace of the gods, and so much more. We've gone over time and time again the energies that we understand within the Weave, and that there are so many more to be known. And now you force me to give you a simple answer with your question. So forgive my disappointment and frustration when I'm forced to admit that in all actuality, I haven't the faintest idea.
Master Andward Donahue of the Coliseo Institute, to his apprentice, Arlo Minsk. Hope you enjoyed that excerpt of Master Donahue talking to his apprentice. But now let's dive into the body of the matter. The Weave is what encompasses all of the worlds within this universe. It is not only a backdrop or something immaterial, but is in fact within and without all things that exist in the universe of the worlds of the Weave. From the foundations of reality to the basic building blocks of life that exist within it. In its plainest form, it is the space in which all things exist. Like outer space, all worlds and stars sit within it, though instead of blackness, void, and distant light, it is a constant churning mass of purple and blue clouds with hints of green and pink that sometimes rise in between the currents of swirling energies. These energies cause radiance that give the Weave spots of bright light that travel through its cloud-like walls. Motes of energy emit from random points in the Weave, some hanging gently in place, while others move with incredible speed from one point of contact to another. While the lights of the nearby star constructs obscure the Weave's astral form during the day while standing on a planet looking to the sky, when doing the same at night it is clearly visible. Clear corridors exist within the Weave, whose walls seem to never get any closer as you travel toward them due to their extreme but difficult to determine dimensions. Within these spaces sit the worlds of the Weave, often orbiting a mass of energy that emits great light and warmth, acting as what would be in our universe a sun, and sometimes accompanied by a smaller orbiting body, or moon if you'd like. These corridors also offer travel to those who have the proper transport, as exposure to the Weave, while not immediately fatal, will lead to eventual dissolution of the subject, as the pure and intense energies they are exposed to dissolve them. This form of travel is actually an alternative, as many beings within the Weave have not discovered the magics and technical knowledge to produce these Weave ships. Instead, many opt to travel through the naturally formed channels that connect most of the worlds. These connections are made at points of high concentration of energy on each world. These Weave channels offer a much safer and stable path, making it so that those who use them can simply walk through. The channels range in size and length, some allowing for single foot file travel, to expansive enough that entire caravans can travel without worry of space that they are taking up. Safety is not the only advantage these channels provide, as they also greatly shorten the amount of time it takes to travel between worlds. Within the weave, these channels are not visible to the naked eye, as they run through a sublayer of the weave. This is because the weave has multiple layers, like smaller pocket dimensions, that exist only within the weave. These layers are the surface layer, the channel layer, the bound layer, and the outer layer. The only two layers that provide space for beings to exist are the surface and channel. The bound layer is where the vast majority of the weave's energies flow, and where the eggs, if you will, of the Onrel in kinspheres are produced, something we'll talk about later in this video. The final layer is more material than the rest and acts as a barrier to anything outside of the weave. Much of the bound layer's energy is sent there to repair and strengthen the outer layer, and on rare opportunity expand the weave. I will be talking more about the weave channels and weave ships in their own videos. No beginning to the weave is known, and most believe it may have simply always existed, or just be older than memory. What is known by some is that the weave birthed the very gods that created life within it. What is known by even less is that the worlds that the peoples of the weave exist upon were also birthed by the weave. The two originally had the name the Onrel and the kinspheres. The Onrel gave themselves their name, and seeing the kinspheres were birthed the same way as they were, considered the spheres to be like them, choosing to call them kin. Birthed from the very walls of the corridors within the weave, the Onrel consider it to be as a parent, calling it Auma. The Onrel, being the firstborn, have a near-perfect connection to the weave, and so are able to manipulate it in incredible ways, such as the creation of a biosphere and life within it when working in tandem with a kinsphere, or the harnessing and concentration of energy when creating a star-like construct for the kinsphere to orbit after creating said life. But each of these groups will be getting their own dedicated video, so I won't dwell on them too long. Like the Onrel of the weave and their eventual children that tend to form each world's pantheon, something we will discuss in its own video, all of the lesser living beings are also born of energies of the weave. Therefore, they also have a connection to the weave that varies in strength and form and allow them to manipulate it. This most often appears in the form of the arcane arts, with its many types and schools that exist across the worlds of the weave. This is not the only type of weave manipulation, as forms of concentration to create energy sources or other technologies that are types of manipulation as well. While technically still within the realm of the arcane, they are separated by the fact it is not one's own energy interacting with the weave, but an external developed force. The weave offers an incredible wealth of energy that many species and individuals have an inherent access to, and finding forms of alternative energy in use are rare, somewhat, but not unheard of. As life exists because of the weave and its energies, it would cease to exist in its absence. A being who has had the weave stripped away from it will simply stop being alive. While yes, technically death, it is a more holistic form if the very weave energy of a being is consumed or destroyed. In the most powerful and complete cases, the being in question simply turns to dust. Though this happening is extremely rare and requires a being or source of incredible power. The weave itself could be considered alive. It grows and reproduces. It seems to have a will of its own as it keeps out and actively resists entities that would be a threat to those within the weave, such as the Other. The Onrel consider it to be their progenitor and treat it as such, giving it a name and interpreting the gentle movements of the weave as will and desire. Many of the lesser beings, having observed it, or having been taught by their gods, believe the weave to be a living thing as well, though it is slow to move, and for the entire history of its known existence, it has never communicated with any other being, so proof of its sentience has never been obtained. The least known fact about the weave is that it is not infinite. While it is incredibly expansive, its walls can eventually be reached. And there is something beyond it, something that seems to be keeping the weave in check. As the weave pushes to expand, it pushes back, tearing at the edges of it with hunger and avarice. There are a few scattered beings that exist with scraps of knowledge of what's beyond. Almost every individual has their own name for it. But the most common name, and the one that is growing among those that gather in dark places to whisper it, is the Outer Dark. The Outer Dark is not the only threat to the weave. There is an entity or group of entities that has or is threatening the weave and those within it. Little to nothing is known about the enemy by the lesser beings of the weave, as the scale of the threat is far beyond them. Though the Onrel, who went to war with it to protect the weave, have given it a name, and some have passed that name to a few lesser beings. They simply call it the Other. Where it came from is unknown. Whether or not the Onrel are still engaged in their war with it is also unknown. And the weave carries on, and the vast majority of the lesser beings are none the wiser. That, my dear listener, is a basic breakdown of the weave. There are many more tales to be told of the worlds of the weave, from the fate of Delan, when the Outer Dark touched Nexus, of Verna and the fall of the Castigan and their eventual return to strength, tales of the Bodan traveling through the weave, exploring worlds after the death of their god, and to the reason Atha was pushed out of alignment with the weave. Thank you for listening. This is the first of what I hope will be many videos. I'm very excited to start, and I look forward to growing as a creator. I know I touched on a lot of topics in this video. It is difficult not to, given that the weave is the very foundation for all the lore of this universe. That is why I started here. I will be making individual videos for each topic. Thank you again to any who stopped for a while and take a listen.